They say some people don't realize what love truly means until silence becomes louder than presence, until the one who stayed through every storm finally stops knocking on the walls they built to feel safe. For the dismissive avoidant, that silence isn't just the absence of another person. It's the sound of their own heart finally waking up. The fear behind emotional distance in dismissive avoidance is not a surface-level aversion to love, but a deeply ingrained psychological defense developed long before they even understood what love meant. From early experiences where vulnerability was met with rejection, neglect, or emotional unavailability, they learned to equate closeness with danger. As children, when their emotional needs went unanswered, they unconsciously built an inner fortress to protect themselves from ever feeling that kind of pain again. To survive, they convinced themselves that they didn't need connection, that self-sufficiency was strength, and that detachment was safety. Over time, this became their emotional default, a carefully constructed system of self-protection masquerading as independence. On the surface, dismissive avoidants appear calm, self-assured, and often emotionally composed. They pride themselves on their ability to stay detached and rational, especially in situations that demand emotional closeness. But beneath that composure lies a quiet storm of repressed feelings they rarely acknowledge. The fear is not that they don't feel enough, but that they might feel too much. Emotional intimacy threatens the walls they've built, stirring a deep inner conflict between the desire for love and the terror of losing control. To them, vulnerability feels like surrender, and surrender feels like the return of helplessness they once swore they would never experience again. In relationships, this fear manifests subtly at first. When someone gets too close, they might withdraw, downplay emotions, or intellectualize their feelings instead of expressing them. They may tell themselves they don't care or that they prefer solitude, but that narrative is a defense against the fear of rejection or dependency. The closer someone tries to get, the stronger the impulse becomes to push them away. This behavior often confuses their partners, who sense genuine affection one moment and cold detachment the next. For the avoidant, this push and pull is not manipulation, but survival. It's the only way they know how to navigate the vulnerability of love without feeling exposed. Their fear of emotional closeness is deeply tied to their fear of losing identity. They've spent years equating independence with worth, and dependency feels like weakness. To depend on someone emotionally threatens the fragile sense of control they've built. It's not that they don't want love, it's that love feels like a loss of power, a surrender to forces they can't manage or predict. So they retreat into logic, distraction, or work, convincing themselves that they are fine alone. But the truth is that solitude for a dismissive avoidant isn't peace. It's protection. It's a shield against feelings that once felt unbearable. When love does appear, when someone offers genuine understanding and warmth, their defenses become even more activated. They may feel drawn in, yet terrified by the intensity of connection. The presence of unconditional love exposes the cracks in their armor. It threatens to unravel years of emotional suppression. That's why they often sabotage relationships that feel too real. The love they crave also represents the emotional exposure they fear the most. It's safer to stay behind the wall, even if it means losing the very intimacy they secretly long for. Deep down, dismissive avoidants don't reject love because they are incapable of feeling it. They reject it because they've never learned to feel safe within it. Their hearts remember the pain of being unseen, unheld, or misunderstood. To open up again would mean risking that pain's return. Their emotional distance, therefore, isn't coldness, it's self-preservation. They withdraw not out of cruelty, but out of fear that closeness will destroy the fragile equilibrium they've built between feeling and survival. The tragedy lies in how this defense, meant to protect them, becomes the very reason they remain trapped in isolation, always guarding themselves from the love that could have healed them most. There often comes a person in a dismissive avoidance life who quietly reaches beyond their walls, someone whose presence doesn't demand but understands. This person doesn't chase or pressure them to open up, but simply sees them as they are, beneath the composure, beneath the emotional armor, beneath the self-protective silence. For the avoidant, this encounter is disarming because they are used to people misunderstanding their distance, taking their quietness as indifference or their independence as rejection. But this one person senses the emotion behind the detachment, the longing behind the control, and the fear hidden beneath the surface. It's a rare and profound connection that touches something ancient in the avoidant's soul, something they didn't believe anyone could ever recognize. At first, they may not know how to receive this kind of love. The avoidant thrives on emotional predictability and control, but this kind of love doesn't fit into the structures they've built to protect themselves. It feels raw and unfamiliar. They're not used to someone staying when they pull away or understanding the language of silence. The one who truly loves them doesn't fight their distance, but meets it with calm. Instead of forcing closeness, they offer presence. This becomes deeply unsettling for the avoidant because it confronts their belief that love always comes with conditions, expectations, or control. To be seen without judgment, to be loved without pressure, it shakes the foundation of the emotional barriers they've spent years reinforcing. For the avoidant, being seen in this way is both comforting and terrifying. Comforting because it brings warmth to places they thought were frozen forever, and terrifying because it makes them aware of just how much they've suppressed. They start to feel emotions they've long buried, yearning, tenderness, even vulnerability, but instead of leaning into it, they retreat, unsure how to handle the intensity of being truly understood. The one who loves them becomes a mirror reflecting their own humanity back at them, showing them the parts they've tried to deny. It's not just affection, it's recognition. And for someone who's built a life around emotional distance, being recognized at the soul level feels almost unbearable. This person, the one who sees through their armor, often offers a kind of love that feels timeless. It's patient, compassionate, and emotionally mature. They don't demand explanations for the avoidant's silence or punish them for their detachment. They understand that love, for the avoidant, is something that must be approached gently, not forced. They speak in gestures, in small acts of understanding, in the quiet acceptance of who the avoidant is beneath the facade. This kind of presence is healing, but it also destabilizes the avoidant's carefully maintained sense of emotional control. Because deep down, the avoidant knows this love is different. It's not about possession or dependence. It's about connection. And that realization terrifies them because it means the walls they built to protect themselves have started to crack. The avoidant's mind begins to oscillate between longing and fear. They crave the comfort of that understanding presence, yet they fear the vulnerability that comes with it. It's a paradox they can't escape. The more they feel seen, the more they want to hide. The more they're loved, the more they doubt their worthiness of that love. This internal tug-of-war can be exhausting, and in many cases it leads them to push away the very person who feels like home. Not because they don't care, but because caring feels too dangerous. They tell themselves that independence is safer, that detachment is freedom, but deep inside, they know this person reached them in a way no one else ever could. For the avoidant, this one person becomes a silent turning point, the one who proves that love doesn't have to be a battlefield, that being seen isn't a threat, but a gift. Even after they distance themselves, the memory of that connection lingers, haunting them in quiet moments. It becomes the standard against which they subconsciously measure all other relationships, the invisible reminder that someone once looked past their defenses and still chose to stay. And though they may never fully express it, that experience leaves an indelible mark on their heart, awakening emotions they may spend a lifetime trying to understand. Regret for a dismissive avoidant does not arrive with noise or immediate tears. It creeps in quietly, long after the person who truly loved them has walked away. In the beginning, they convince themselves they are fine. They tell themselves it was necessary to pull back, that emotional distance is safer, that they never needed anyone to begin with. They suppress the ache and mask it with distractions, work, routines, independence. To the outside world, they appear unaffected, composed, even relieved. But inside, an invisible shift begins. Their subconscious starts replaying moments they once dismissed, small gestures of love they failed to appreciate, and words they never said but should have. At first, it's a faint echo, but over time, it becomes a haunting voice they can't silence. What makes this regret so powerful is its timing. It does not come when love is still near, but when it is gone, beyond reach. Avoidants are wired to feel safe when alone, yet true aloneness, the kind that follows the loss of genuine connection, exposes the emptiness beneath their emotional independence. The walls they built to protect themselves now become their prison. The same silence that once brought comfort now feels suffocating. They begin to sense the difference between solitude and loneliness. For the first time, they realize that peace without love is not freedom, but exile. Their regret is born not from missing attention, but from understanding that they lost someone who accepted them in their most unguarded state, something they may never find again. This awakening does not happen through logic, but through subtle emotional memories. They remember the way that person's presence felt, safe, grounding, without judgment. They remember the warmth of small moments that felt insignificant then, but now seem irreplaceable. The avoidant begins to grasp that what they pushed away wasn't pressure or neediness, it was connection. They begin to see that the one who loved them didn't want to change them, only to understand them. The realization that they misunderstood love becomes one of the deepest emotional wounds they will ever carry. It's the pain of knowing they rejected the very thing they always longed for. The mind of the avoidant tries to rationalize this pain, but the heart refuses to cooperate. They replay old conversations, searching for signs that things could have gone differently. They analyze where they withdrew, when they chose silence over honesty, and why they turned love into a threat instead of a refuge. They start to see the patterns, the moments they shut down emotionally, the times they chose pride over vulnerability, the decisions that now feel irreversible. It's a form of slow self-confrontation that strips away their illusions of control. This is where true regret begins to take shape, not as a fleeting feeling, but as a deep awareness that they were loved in ways they weren't ready to receive. As the realization deepens, they experience a haunting paradox. The one person who saw them most clearly is no longer there, and yet that person's presence lingers everywhere. It's in the quiet of the night when they can no longer distract themselves, in the moments they see others loved the way they once were, in the echoes of words they never had the courage to say. The regret becomes a silent teacher, forcing them to confront the cost of their emotional avoidance. It's not just the loss of a relationship, it's the loss of a chance to heal through love. They understand too late that love was not their enemy but their mirror, reflecting their deepest fears and their greatest need for connection. Eventually, the regret transforms into awareness. They start to understand that their avoidance didn't protect them from pain, it prolonged it. The emptiness left behind is not punishment but consequence, a mirror showing them what fear stole from them. This realization marks the beginning of their internal awakening, but it is also their most painful truth. The person who once reached for their heart is gone, and no amount of reflection can bring them back. The love they once resisted becomes the ghost that follows them, reminding them of what could have been had they allowed themselves to stay open instead of afraid. On the outside, the dismissive avoidant seems unaffected after losing someone they loved. They carry themselves with composure, appearing grounded, logical, and even indifferent. They return to their routines, focus on work or hobbies, and tell themselves that life is easier without emotional complications. To others, it looks as if they have moved on effortlessly, but beneath that calm exterior lies an inner world filled with conflict, silence, and longing they dare not admit. The truth is that the avoidant does not stop feeling, they simply stop showing. Their suffering happens privately, tucked away behind a facade of strength where no one can see the quiet ache of what they've lost. They live with the illusion of control, convincing themselves that their detachment means peace. Yet the peace they feel is fragile, resting on suppression rather than healing. Over time, tiny reminders of the person they once pushed away begin to surface. A familiar scent, a song, a phrase that echoes in their mind, and with each reminder, the armor around their emotions cracks just a little. They find themselves remembering the small moments that once meant nothing. A look of understanding, a gentle touch, laughter shared in silence. These memories linger not because of sentimentality, but because they reveal something real, something they can no longer access. The avoidant begins to feel the absence of emotional safety they once took for granted. What makes this suffering silent is their inability to express it, even to themselves. They do not cry or reach out, they internalize everything. For a dismissive avoidant, admitting pain feels like defeat. Vulnerability threatens the identity they've built around self-reliance. So instead of feeling their loss openly, they bury it under layers of rationalization. They tell themselves it wasn't real love, that the timing was wrong, or that the other person expected too much. These justifications become emotional bandages that cover the wound but never allow it to heal. In moments of solitude, however, the truth seeps through. The loneliness they once embraced for comfort now feels heavy, echoing with memories they can't escape. Inside their minds, they replay past interactions, analyzing where things shifted. They recall moments when they pulled back, even though a part of them wanted to stay, when they withheld affection, even as they longed to give it. They start to see the subtle ways they sabotaged the relationship, and the realization is haunting. It is not the absence of the person that hurts the most, but the awareness that they had a chance at something real and were too afraid to hold on to it. The regret they feel is complicated. It's not dramatic or impulsive, but quiet and persistent, a slow ache that grows with understanding. The suffering of the avoidant is invisible because it exists in the spaces they refuse to share. They may appear composed, but internally they are haunted by what if? What if they had stayed when they wanted to run? What if they had spoken when they chose silence? These questions never fade completely. They become whispers in their solitude, reminders that emotional safety and emotional emptiness are not the same thing. They begin to see that their version of strength, detachment, was actually a shield against their own fear of being hurt. That realization cuts deeper than any heartbreak because it shows them that they were both the protector and the destroyer of their own happiness. Even as time passes, traces of the one who loved them remain. They may not talk about it, but the memory stays alive in subtle ways, in the way they hesitate before opening up to someone new, in the way they remember how it felt to be understood without explanation. That experience becomes the quiet benchmark for every future connection, though none feel the same. The silent suffering of the dismissive avoidant is not about missing a person. It's about confronting the emptiness left behind by the defenses that once made them feel safe. They learn, often too late, that emotional distance doesn't erase love. It only hides it, letting it echo in the silence of their own making, where no one but them can hear it. The true pain for a dismissive avoidant doesn't fully emerge in the moment of separation. It begins later, when the silence becomes a mirror reflecting everything they tried to avoid. For so long, they believed that pulling away protected them, that detachment was strength and independence was peace. But time has a way of revealing what denial conceals. The deeper truth dawns slowly. The same walls that kept them safe also kept love out. The emotional distance they relied on for stability becomes the reason they feel an emptiness that no distraction can fill. What once felt like control now feels like isolation. And in that realization, they begin to understand that the real danger was never love itself. It was the fear of being open enough to receive it. At first, they try to dismiss this awareness. They tell themselves they made the right choice, that relationships are temporary, and that feelings always fade. But the human heart, no matter how guarded, has its own memory. It remembers connection in ways the mind can't rationalize away. The avoidant begins to feel the absence of the one who truly loved them, not as longing, but as a quiet imbalance, a subtle void in their emotional rhythm. They start to notice it in the stillness of their days, in the moments when everything feels fine, yet nothing feels alive. The emotional numbness that once provided comfort begins to feel like suffocation. They start to question why they pushed away someone who offered acceptance without demand, and why love, something so pure, felt so threatening. This stage of realization is painful because it dismantles the very foundation of their identity. They've spent years believing that needing someone is weakness, that emotional self-reliance is the key to strength. But losing the person who loved them forces them to confront the illusion that independence equals safety. They begin to see that love was never trying to take away their freedom. It was trying to free them from the loneliness of constant self-protection. The transformation begins here, in the quiet confrontation with their own fear. They start to recognize that their avoidance was not strength but survival, and survival is not the same as living. The emotional armor that once shielded them now feels heavy, suffocating, and unnecessary. But removing it means facing the vulnerability they've always feared most. They begin to reflect on the patterns that led to this loss. Every withdrawal, every moment they chose silence instead of truth, every time they shut down when love came too close, all of it becomes clear. It's not regret for losing someone, it's regret for never showing up fully when they had the chance. This self-awareness is both awakening and devastating. It exposes them to the emotional depth they've spent a lifetime avoiding. They start to understand that love doesn't demand perfection, it asks for presence. But they realize this too late, after the one who saw them deeply has already walked away. What follows is not just heartbreak, it's the recognition of how much love they've missed throughout their lives by confusing distance with safety. In this awareness lies the seed of transformation. The dismissive avoidant begins to soften, though quietly and painfully. They start to realize that intimacy doesn't mean losing themselves, but finding the parts of their soul that were never nurtured. They may begin to crave connection again, but this time with awareness instead of fear. They start to understand that the vulnerability they once ran from was not a threat, but a bridge, a way to heal the very wounds that made them afraid of love. Yet this understanding often arrives in solitude, long after the one who inspired it is gone. The regret becomes their teacher, showing them the cost of living behind walls, and the truth that love, once lost through fear, becomes the echo that haunts every quiet moment afterward. The pain that once seemed unbearable to feel becomes the only path to freedom, revealing that healing was never in distance, but in the courage to stay open.